The caterhamracer.com Season 10 270R Championship is sponsored by DPR Motorsport, your competitive advantage, and by 1-to-1 on-track coaching and simulator training with Ryan Hooker. We're supported by FP0 Simulators.
Well, good evening, race fans, and a very warm welcome to the final round of Season 10 of the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship. Yes, tonight the champion will be decided for Season 10. Two drivers still in contention, and the showdown is ready. My name is Dave Goddard, taking you through the action here at Donington Park in the English Midlands, under the flight path of East Midlands Airport, just next door. Brilliant circuit, perfectly suited to slipstreaming Caterham action. We are ready with qualifying already underway. 21 drivers set to compete here this evening. Christian Szaruta leads the points, the reigning champion, but he is absent tonight with overseas commitments over in the USA. So it's all down to Ryan Hooker, his nearest pursuer, to overhaul his rival at the top of the standings and take the title in his first season in the championship. Chris Hutchinson alongside me as always. It is certainly all to play for tonight.
Yep, good evening everybody. It's been a very exciting season, hasn't it, so far? And why not top it off for tonight's double-header. 2 15-minute races for all our drivers. You can see them just out here in qualifying. And as you say, Christian can't make it for this final round, so he's relying on Ryan Hooker not having such a good evening. Here is Ryan Hooker in his 1-to-1 race car. So he's got to have still a pretty good set of results. So we calculated that he needs at least 2 second places from the events, or if he gets a win, he can drop down to 4th place. So we'll keep an eye on that as the race evening goes on. I'm sure Ryan knows what he needs to do as well. But yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch that. And then in sort of 3rd place battle, it's Andrew Parker who has got the sort of his 2 hands on that trophy. He just needs a 9th place finish tonight, but otherwise Will Stillwell and John Lang can still take that trophy away from him. So a little bit to look out for, but as ever, the Donington Park circuit leads to some fantastic racing, and it's good to see 21 of our drivers out here tonight ready to see what they can do.
Yes, indeed. We saw a cracking weekend of real-world Caterham racing weekend just gone at sunny Snetterton over in Norfolk. And, of course, in just a couple of weeks' time, the Caterham Championships, by and large, reached their climax at Donington Park. We hope to see everybody there for that one. But currently in this qualifying session, it is a man who was racing at Snetterton at the weekend, Tom McEwing, the former Caterham Academy champion, number 89, getting a bit of a lock up there into the Melbourne hairpin, who is quickest by 1/10 of a second over Ryan Hooker, our championship challenger, with Steve Arnell, the Caterham Graduates regular, in 3rd place in the times. We're using the full Grand Prix layout here at Donington for this Wednesday night action. Tom McEwing throwing his car through the final corner. We'll take you on a lap in a moment of the Donington circuit. Let's go round with Tom McEwing, our current fastest man. It's down the Wheatcroft straight past the pits on the left, and then into the very fast right-hander at Redgate Corner. Very easy to run wide into the gravel there. And then, of course, the famous roller coaster section comes up next through the slight right-hander as Hollywood, and then down the legendary Craner curves. You drop away the right, then the left, getting ever steeper as you come down. Then it's hard on the brakes for the right-hander at the old hairpin. This stunning glowing circuit layouts. You see it's easy to run wide. There's I've seen quite a few cars run wide there already. It's up through the left-hander at Starkey's Bridge, the slightly sharper left at Schwantz curve, named after motorcycle legend Kevin Schwantz. Then onto the brakes and into the right-hander at McLean's Corner. Queuing just running wide there onto the grass, battling with Gary Preble for track space. Then for McLean's climb up to Coppice, this tricky double apex right-hander. You can't see the first apex as you turn in there because of the crest of the hill. Then it's down the exhibition straights, the exhibition centre on the left-hand side as you come down, then onto the brakes, not turning right through the chicane there, but instead left into the Fogarty S's. Again, the name reflecting Donington's motorcycling heritage. Over the curbs there on the inside. You have to be careful not to cut that chicane, or you can face a penalty. Down into the Melbourne hairpin, the section added for the advent of Formula 1 in the 1990s. It's 180-degree hairpin, and it's climb up into the final corner of the lap, past the hospitality suites on the left, into my corner, Goddard's, and the end of the lap.
Always nice to have a corner named after you, isn't it, around a track? And Tom McEwing,
I've asked Donington in the past, and nobody knows where Goddard's Corner gets its name from, so I like to pretend it's named after me.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tom McEwing, not the cleanest lap, was it? He's fighting away in qualifying with Gary Preble. You could see that Tom McEwing had a few tenths on him, but it wasn't enough to get him in front. But he was not a clean lap that time through, and Paul Donkin has usurped him. So Paul Donkin, here he is in his red and white machinery, followed by David Rowe. There you can see them top of the pile. They were circulating in practice a lot together. So Donkin currently ahead with a 146.0, and 89 hundredths just separates them. Sorry, 89 thousandths, isn't it? Separates those two as they head on into the second part of this qualifying. 7 minutes to go.
Yes, Paul Donkin was in action at the weekend at Snetterton in the Caterham 7 UK Championship out in the 270R here at Donington this evening. Had 2 wins in the previous round of this series at Snetterton, which set him up nicely for the real life race weekend there. David Rowe, the boss of DPR Motorsport, in second place. Ryan Hooker is third, and then Will Stillwell, who's currently joint fourth on dropped scores with John Lang in the points table. Tom McEwing now down to fifth ahead of Paul Ferneyhoff in the patchwork liveried car. There is Will Stillwell, the black car with the yellow cage. He and John Lang still with a chance of catching Andrew Parker for third place in the points. Parker currently down in P13 in the qualifying times, just over 6 minutes of this qualifying session to go. Great to see a field of 21 cars entered to compete here tonight as well. 1 or 2 returning names. Peter Varga coming back out. Gianni Lenz as well. He's missed the last couple of rounds. And also Gary Preble as well, the former King of Castle Combe, as he was known in their saloon car series. There's Gianni Lenz, the lime green and black machine. He currently sits 10th in the points. Missed the last round at Snetterton, but some good consistent scores up to then. Just making his way through the Melbourne loop up towards Goddard's to complete his lap. See if he improves this time through. Gianni Lenz currently down in P18 in the times, nearly 2.5 seconds off the pace. Ryan Wilby goes across the line. He now goes P18. Lenz bumped down a place as a result of that and doesn't improve. Does he improve that time through? Yes, he does. He goes P15. Still Paul Donkin, who is quickest ahead of David Rowe, Hooker, Stillwell, McEwing and Ferneyhoff, with Steve Arnell, Alan Curtis in P8. And then completing the top 10, Lee Green, good to have him back out. It's not in a green car, unfortunately, he's in a grey livery car. And Matt Shepherd, who made a racing return at Snetterton last weekend, completing the top 10.
Yeah, we need to get Lee's skin locked to a green car, don't we, just to help us out here in the commentary box. We'll see whether we can get that sorted for next season. Yeah, Alan Curtis also back from Snetterton, where we've just had a real world race series, and it's quick fire because we're in a weekend and a half. We are back at Donington in the real world, so this obviously our virtual race series shadows the main championship season for Caterham Motorsport, and so they'll be out here at Donington on the Grand Prix loop in not too long at the 50th birthday celebrations for Caterham. So an exciting 4-day drift racing going on the Friday. Then there's the actual race weekend over the course of the Saturday and Sunday, and then on the Monday there is a track day for Caterham. So if you've got a Caterham 7, you're listening along, why not join in that Caterham track day exclusive on the Monday just after the race weekend. So yeah, going to be good fun, and endless Caterhams all throughout the weekend. Not only have we got all the official Caterham Motorsport series, but we've got the Caterham graduates with us. We've got the Mag 7s as well, so plenty of Caterham action all through the weekend.
50th anniversary of Caterham. I hope you're bringing birthday cake with you.
Yeah, I've promised now, haven't I? So I've sort of dug myself a hole. I have to work out how I can achieve that. Should also probably be Caterham themed, shouldn't it?
Anyway, Andrew Parker has moved up into P8, well P9 now, because Matt Shepherd goes 7th quickest with a 146.836. There's Gary Preble being tailed by Alan Curtis, who gets a bit sideways. Ooh, big twitch there. Got a wheel out wide onto the grass coming through the old hairpin. Climb up through Schwant's curve into McLean's. This spectacular layout here at Donington. Lends itself to close Caterham racing. Somebody else running wide in there as well. Gary Preble's got a problem. He's pulling off on the inside of the run up to Coppice there. This is Paul Ferniehoff, the almost patchwork liveried number 24. 6th quickest, less than a second off pole. In fact, his time identical to that of Tom McEwing, I noticed. We've got less than a second covering the top 10 at the moment. Just another 3 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Paul Donkin looking to make it 3 wins in a row in our first race. So looking back over the championship, it really was a season of two halves, because Max Haynes, Super Max as we christened him, won 5 out of the first 6 races of the year, beaten only in race 2 of the season opener at Donington Park by Christian Szaruta. But then Max Haynes hasn't appeared again since then. Christian Szaruta took a couple of wins at the 4th meeting of the year. Andrew Parker and Ryan Hooker had a win each at Thruxton. Then at Snetterton there were 2 wins for Paul Donkin. So it's been really has been a season of two halves once Max Haynes wrote himself out of the championship effectively.
Yeah, sadly the real life got in the way, didn't it? So he wasn't able to join us for the middle part of the season. You know, holidays and life stuff, other stuff gets in the way, doesn't it? As it does in real world racing as well. So unfortunately, yeah, Max hasn't been able to finish the season with us, but he showed how much speed he had this year, and he shall be a contender over the Winter Series, no doubt. We will be announcing what we're going to do. Obviously, tonight is the grand final of Season 10, but Season 11 will follow on, and it's likely to be a Winter Series. So keep an eye out on caterhamracer.com and across all the socials, and we will keep you updated. If you are enjoying watching, then obviously we will broadcast those as and when. But we will also, if you're sitting there thinking I want to get involved in the racing, then yeah, caterhamracer.com is where you need to go.
Here's Steve Arnell in his multicoloured car. Had a win in the Caterham Graduates Championship at Brands Hatch in his class earlier this season. He's currently in P5. Scored his first podium in this caterhamracer.com 270R Championship just a few weeks ago. That was in the second race at Snetterton a couple of weeks back. So perhaps looking for his first win here tonight. You score 50 points for a win, 48 for second, then 47, 45, 44 and so on, 46, 45, 44, so on downwards through the order. So you get an extra point effectively for winning the race. You're 2 points clear of your rivals. Here's David Rowe. He's had a lot of bad luck, it's fair to say, this season in the DPR Motorsport car.
Yeah, it's not been the smoothest of years, has he? He's always been there or thereabouts, competing at the top. He's just pulling into the pits. He's done for this qualifying session. There are 35 seconds left, but he's choosing that he's not going to go and complete that. You can see Stillwell here. But yeah, not a smooth run for David Rowe this year, and I think he's just enjoying the racing, though. Certainly him and Paul Donkin have been close out on track all the time. As we see Stillwell there, fresh off a Graduates triple header win, so he won through it as he just drifts off onto the gravel. Not the best line, was it, through there? But yeah, 3 wins for him in the Graduates Racing Championship. So someone else who's converting that sim racing into the real world and having great success off the back of it.
Yes, that was up at Croft, I believe, recently, where Will Stillwell scored a 3 out of 3. Came close to a win at Snetterton earlier this year as well. Mr. Gear coming out of the final corner. Unfortunately, Tom McEwing just pipping Will Stillwell last time through. He was getting a toe off him, I noticed, coming out of the final corner. Just pip him by a few hundredths of a second for P5 in the times. The checkered flag is now out on this qualifying session, so the last few drivers going to complete their laps. Paul Donkin, David Rowe, Ryan Hooker, our top 3 are all in the pit lane, so it's down to Steve Arnell and Tom McEwing to see if they can knock them off the top. Here's McEwing running a little bit wide there, and he's slowing up. He's going to abort. So Tom McEwing pulls up.
Yeah, our drivers all have little V-boxes on their dashboard, just like they do in real life. You see there that, as on Gary Preble's car, he's also slowing down, but it tells them whether they're up or down on their lap time, so they're very likely just to abandon if they're on their last lap, and it's showing that they haven't got one. So we'll just see whether there's anyone else looking to complete their lap. There's still some some people nearer the rear. So here's John Lang completing his rear. Not a great qualifying for him. He's down in 15th at the moment. Yeah, so yeah, that's slower than he would maybe expect from his high standards.
Yes, 4th in the championship this year so far. John Lang will joint 4th with Will Stillwell on dropped scores coming into this round. He'll swing his way into Goddard's corner. We'll see where he comes in this session. Currently 1.5 seconds off the pace. Does he improve from 15th place? We'll see as the timing tower updates itself.
Doesn't look like it, does it? No.
I don't think he's improved, no.
No. So that's the end for John Lang, and then there was one other car, but it looks like they're 20 is our final car. See whether Real Racing here is going to complete his lap. He's currently a couple of seconds off, so the whole if he's got a big oversteer moment there coming out of the Melbourne
He's
loop.
practicing for the Caterham drifting day.
That's exactly what the drift will look like down there. Yeah. So here we go then. Let me just zoom in for you.
Okay, let's have a look at the grid then for our first of two 15-minute races. It's Paul Donkin in pole position with David Rowe alongside him. Ryan Hooker and Steve Arnell on the second row. Remember, Ryan really needs a top two finish to keep his championship hopes fully alive. Tom McEwing and Will Stillwell on row 3, ahead of Paul Ferniehoff and Matt Shepherd. Andrew Parker and Alan Curtis completing the top 10. Lee Green and Gary Preble start on row 6. Row 7, it's Cameron Miller alongside Ryan Wilby. John Lang down in 15th. You won't be too happy with that, with Anthony Hambleton alongside. Gianni Lenz and Peter Varga on row 9. Nick Platts and Will Rayson fill the 10th row with Neil Pardo, the final qualifier in P21.
Yep, so a good start from Paul Donkin and David Rowe, but they are acting interference, aren't they, to Ryan Hooker's championship hopes? Like we say, he needs ideally 2 second places, but he has proved throughout the course of this season he is an extremely strong racer, and I would expect to see him fully inserting. We see Paul Donkin's kind of disappeared off up front a couple of times, so he's got the speed to do that, but David Rowe is right on his hot on his heels. Couple of tenths in this qualifying session, but in the other sessions that I've been watching them through, they have been absolutely nose to tail. And Steve Arnell, another great performance there in 4th. Tom McEwing, great return again, so good to see him up there as the cars are starting to get onto the grid. So let's go join them out there. But yes, I don't know who I'd want to call it out of that front sort of 5 or 6 really.
Yes, indeed. Likely to be, I think any of the top 10 could possibly win this. It's going to be a very open race indeed. So the cars are on the grid then. The red car of Paul Donkin in pole position. The white, black and green of David Rowe, the DPR Motorsports boss on the front row. Second row is the green and white there of Ryan Hooker. Alongside him, Steve Arnell in the almost patchwork liveried yellow car. Tension beginning to mount then. Ryan Hooker, he really needs a top 2 finish here. A 4th place would mean, a 3rd or 4th would need, he's needing a win in the second race. Paul Donkin aiming to make it 3 wins in a row. David Rowe just wants his first win, I think. He was on the podium back in round 6 of the season, but he's had so much misfortune, including a few retirements. He was out of contention for the championship down in P7.
He was in the lead when his Wi-Fi went down, and as it turns out, Derek Rowe, his dad, just reset the router halfway through the race, so he was comfortably winning, and unfortunately that took him straight out of the win. So such are things that you don't have in real world racing, but I guess it's the same as a mechanical. Yes,
that happened at Silverstone, I remember, in an earlier round of the season. Yeah. What are the odds? On the grid then we are ready, waiting for the red lights to come on. When they go out, it will be a 15-minute race around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit in sunny conditions for the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship round number 13. Let's hope it's not going to be unlucky 13 for anyone. A little bit of a breeze, you can see the flags waving. The drivers await the all clear from the marshals and the clerk of the course. The red light's about to come on. Here we go then with round 13 of the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship at Donington Park. Lights out, wheels spinning, and away we go. Paul Donkin gets away well, so does Rowe. Tries to slot in behind as they all move towards the inside. Ryan Hooker trying to force his way through for second place on the inside into Redgate corner. It's Donkin who's got the advantage there. Steve Arnell in just behind. They've all got round Redgate, I think. Okay. They head down towards Hollywood. Ryan Hooker's got through into second place. Yes, so 1 or 2 cars just running a little bit over the curbs there, but they're all okay. Down the fabulous Craner curve section into the old hairpin for the first time. And it is Ryan Hooker where he needs to be. He made a good start there to get past David Rowe on the run through Redgate corner as they head up towards Schwantz curve. For the first time, we've got a tangle there. Matt Shepherd spins around. He's taken off a couple of other cars onto the grass, so Shepherd will drop down to the rear of the field. David Rowe in 3rd place, Will Stillwell 4th, and Steve Arnell rounds out the top 5.
Yeah, an insistent start there from Ryan, wasn't it? He was not willing to let David Rowe get back in that line, and did it. Paul Ferniehoff just holding off there. Lee Green and Andrew Parker just getting a little bit shoved out to one side there as we just watched Matt Shepherd rejoining at the rear of the field as they come down then into the fog as the S's for the first time. Ryan Hooker right down the tight line on the inside. Is he going to be able to make that stick? Donkin's going to try and hold around the outside, but at this early stage he let that one go, but that's going to compress them all as they come up the hill, and that's that's not worked out in Ryan's favour, and I think that might be Lee Green getting spun out to the inside. It is. He's dropping down that tower now, so it was Lee Green that went off the inside, and we got Ryan Hooker spinning down the inside of the Melbourne Loop. He's got it collected, and he's just about to get it back up to speed again, but that was not what Ryan Hooker wanted in this early stage of the race.
That wasn't drifting, that was rallycross going into the old hairpin. What on earth happened there for Ryan Hooker? And he's down to P5. Now, if he finishes outside the top 4, that will pretty much be his championship hopes over. And Christian Szaruta will be celebrating over in the USA, where he currently is. Paul Donkin leads over the line. Steve Arnell up into second place. It's Stillwell third. Row 4, somebody else spinning there in the background. There's 3 or 4 cars that have gone around on the exit of Goddard's, and one of them crashes in there. That's Cameron Miller who crashed into somebody, I think. There's so much gone on at the second half of this first lap. I thought the racing at Snetterton was a bit destructive over the weekend. They seem to be carrying it on here. Yeah,
they've taken it into the virtual world. Obviously, they run with such tight margins that it looks like someone may just outbrake themselves, and it's caused a concertina and maybe a loss of the rear end of a couple of cars, which means that they are going to be spinning out. I think Andrew Parker, they're still on the grass as they head this front Cinquet. How do you do a 5? It's not quartet.
Quintet.
Well, yeah, quintet. There you go. So Ryan Hooker is at the tail of that, though, and like you say, he needs at least a 4th place to keep that championship hope alive. Even though Christian's not here, we run with 2 drop scores like they used to do in the old days of Caterham Racing. Now that they've got 3 races in the 270R per race weekend, they do a 3-score drop. But yeah, we have a 2-score drop system to allow someone to miss a race weekend and still compete for a championship. And Ryan Hooker, so Christian's not here, but he is still firmly, because of that drop score system, in the running, and Ryan Hooker has to do everything to claw points back.
David Rowe going through on the inside at the chicane, up into P3 behind Steve Arnell. Will Stillwell fighting back, and Ryan Hooker desperate to get past the both of them and get into at least a 3rd place. Remember, if he finishes 4th or 3rd, Ryan Hooker, he has to win the 2nd race. 2nd place means he has to finish at a minimum of 2nd in race number 2 here at Donington Park. There's a good battle going on further back as well. Paul Ferneyhoff heading the 2nd group ahead of McEwing, Parker and John Lang. Ferneyhoff runs wide through Goddard's, and Tom McEwing goes through into P6. The first 5 getting away slightly. Donkin leads as they go over the line. We'll pick up the gap as they come down into Redgate. Hooker's having a look on the inside of Will Stillwell. Is he going to get the line away there? Wheel to wheel as they come out of Redgate corner into Hollywood. I think he's got through into P4. There's David Rowe in 3rd. The lead gap is 1.3 seconds. Steve Arnell a further 0.8 of a second clear of Rowe in 3rd position. Paul Donkin just starting to get away. This is the battle for what is now 6th place. Tom McEwing in 6th place, then Paul Ferneyhoff 7th, Parker and Lang 8th and 9th. They all run a bit wide onto the grass there. Have to be careful about track limits pings, of course, as they head up towards the right-hander at McLean's corner. Parker trying to make a move on Paul Ferneyhoff, but he's almost assured of 3rd place in the championship after a good run in the second half of the season, including a win at Thruxton. They go through the right-hander at McLean's. 1.3 seconds in it for the lead between Paul Donkin and Steve Arnell.
Yeah, and you can see Paul Ferneyhoff having to take the defensive line everywhere around this track. He's under attack, but that defensive line is slowing them down an awful lot. You've seen how far forward McEwing's got just from the couple of corners having to go side by side. And that's one of the artefacts of this Donington track, is that if you go side by side through these corners, they are so fast sweeping and they're momentum based that actually if you go side by side, you really do cost yourself an awful lot of time. We can see Donkin at the moment is making good over that, and Arnell is sitting in that 2nd place, hoping that the battle between Hooker and David Rowe starts firing up again so he can get some respite.
Well, Hooker is under real pressure at the moment from Will Stillwell for that 4th position. They are glued together on this lap as they come through over the line once again. 9.5 minutes of the race to go. The first 5 still clear of Tom McEwing in the green car in 6th position ahead of Ferneyhoff, Parker, Lang, and it's Peter Varga rounding out the top 10. He missed the previous round at Snetterton with other commitments. Paul Donkin looking to make it 3 wins in a row. He missed a couple of rounds earlier in the year, meaning that he's further down the points chart at the moment.
I think
over the line they come.
I think Alan Curtis might have just got a penalty which he didn't serve, and unfortunately that's pulled him back to the pit lane. That will see him out of this race, and he'll have to start from the rear of the field for the second race. So we've watched that nose-to-tail action then between Will Stillwell and Ryan Hooker. He's got absolutely no margin for error there. There's no gap between those two cars. Ryan Hooker just managed to pull away slightly on the way into McLean's that time through, but he's going to lose some momentum on the way out. He's still got enough to come up this hill into Coppice. Very blind apex, double apex, normally right-hander, as you just scramble to keep that track within track limits on the exit, which they both managed to do. But Stillwell's got a little bit of a run on him, well within that half-second margin. He needs to get a toe in this simulator. He's on the outside, though, as they go into Fogarty S's.
Yes, braking for the left, then the right, as opposed to the right-left of the Roberts chicane that goes the other way on the shorter layout here, the National Circuit at Donington Park. Down towards the hairpin they go, and David Rowe up the inside on Steve Arnell. He's going to take second place away. Up into second goes David Rowe. Will Stillwell back up the inside as well. He takes P4. 2 moves made in the top 5 on the same corner. Paul Donkin increasing his lead, saying, well, if you're going to squabble with each other, I'm going to clear off and take my 3rd win in a row, or try to. We're coming up towards half distance in this round 13 of the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship, sponsored by DPR Motorsport, 1-2-1 driver coaching, supported by FP0 simulators as well. Using the pit lane exit there for cornering into Redgates. Will Stillwell ahead of Ryan Hooker, and Ryan Hooker, if he can't get back ahead of Will Stillwell, this will be his championship almost over and done with.
Yeah, thanks ever so much to all our sponsors, including Ryan Hooker, for their support on here. And if you're sat at home, like I say, looking like to get involved and you haven't got a rig set up, then FP0 Simulators have some turnkey solutions for you. So definitely check out fp0simulators.co.uk, and they will have the solution for you to get involved, and you can get up and running straight away. But as you say, Ryan Hooker has a bit of a headache here. He's got a gap in front of Stillwell. Every time he's behind, he looks like he's got the speed, but each time he goes ahead, so does Stillwell. So they're clearly quite evenly matched, and if he can't find a way through Stillwell, or one of the other drivers doesn't have a mistake, then he's not in a championship winning position at this point, and that will be the championship to Christian.
David Rowe running a bit wide there, coming out of McLean's, but Steve Arnell was not in a position to capitalise. We go on board with Ryan Hooker down into the chicane. He's got the inside run. He's going to have to be late on the brakes. No, he gets the move done even before they get to the chicane. Good bit of slipstreaming there by flying Ryan Hooker. He's back up into P4. Remember, if he finishes 3rd or 4th, he has to win race 2, but Will Stillwell is not finished yet. The recent hat-trick winner at Croft comes to the inside. Ryan Hooker moving to defend through the Melbourne hairpin. There's Donkin, the red car, clear at the front, still 1.7 seconds ahead of David Rowe, Steve Arnell, and then this battle for 4th position. Paul Donkin, the man who's raced everything from Ariel Atoms to Porsches, Clios, Fun Cup Endurance, Hondas, and much, much more besides. Over the line he goes, ahead of David Rowe. Yes, the gap's still about the same. Steve Arnell trying to close up on Rowe in turn. Second group still headed by McEwing. Then it's Ferniehoff, Parker, Lang and Varga rounding out the top 10 as Ryan Hooker records the fastest lap of the race.
Still very close to, the mid-pack is not too far away from this lead pack, and it will only take more battling. But at the moment, Donkin's managed to spread everyone out, so you can see they're kind of running in wheelbarrow racing. It's 2 by 2. Although Will Stillwell lost out through Redgate that time, so whether he made a move that didn't stick, or whether he's just lost a few of those tenths or the toe, although he looks like he's scrabbling to get back. The gravel doesn't slow them down too much on the exit there, does it? They're still able to carry that momentum up the hill here through Swanson, then over to the McLean's right-hander. It's a complicated corner, this one, in real life. You've really got to get over the top of that curb with your Caterhams. Obviously, in real world, you can't drift over the edge of that red and white curbing. In the simulator world, we run a bit more European regulations, where they can run 2 wheels as long as they maintain 2 wheels on the track. That's kind of our limits that we run on the service. But yeah, so Ryan Hooker is in a place he needs to be, but it is only the minimum of what he needs to do. He's got to get his head down and see whether he can catch this 2 battle in front. David Rowe currently heads Steve Arnell, so Ryan Hooker will be seeing whether he can do anything about that in the last 4 3/4 minutes.
So how long to go? Just under 5 minutes remaining as they come down into the Melbourne Loop. Steve Arnell had a look there. There wasn't enough room on the inside. Will Stillwell, I noticed, was running wide there quite a lot during qualifying as well, so maybe 1 or 2 slight handling issues as Paul Donkin continues to set the pace here at Donington Park. Goddards they come. Steve Arnell in the multicoloured 06 machine. Fairly well spread out as the 4 cars. Maybe they're starting a concertina together now. Yes, Ryan Hooker, I think, has got the gap down on Steve Arnell. Let's have a look. It's as they come down into Redgate's 0.6 of a second, about the same as between third and fourth as it is from second to third now. Will Stillwell again over the curbs there, coming out of Redgate. So they're about equidistant, these cars now. Here's a group further back. Johnny Lenz in P11 heading Matt Shepherd, who's recovered nicely from that spin on the first lap, come from last up to P12. Nick Platt's in the blue machine in behind him in number 13, in P13 I should say. Then next in the order it is Gary Preble, the former king of Castle Combe, ahead of Will Rayson. It's just one retirement so far, sadly. Alan Curtis out of the race. Cameron Miller has dropped to the back of the field. He was one of those many cars that go skidding and spinning all over the place at Goddard's corner on the first lap. We're on board with Cameron. He's just taken Lee Green as they come down the Craner curves. That's Neil Pardo on their tails. Good battles everywhere, including down at the tail of the field.
Yeah, battles deep. And he got a little bit of a mistake. I think Cameron may be having to serve a penalty, or maybe got some engine issues. Looks like his car's struggling on the exit there, so can be an engine. We do run damage on this service, so if you over rev on the down changes, for example, it will break your engine eventually, and it maybe looks what happened. Everyone at the front here has kind of got those equidistant gaps, aren't they? Everyone's coming back together. David Rowe's slowly catching up with Donkin, but Arnell's drifted away from the rear of that, was bringing him towards Ryan Hooker, but everyone stayed kind of consistent on that last lap through, as we see the battle going on between Parker and Ferneyhoff as they go into the Melbourne loop at the bottom of the hill. Ferneyhoff just a little tap onto the rear end of Parker's car there, just as they come back up the hill towards Goddard's. Parker on the inside, Ferneyhoff on the outside. Parker's going to insist on the inside line. That's going to work out for him. Can Ferneyhoff do the chop under? It looks like it's a bit off camber, so it's pretty tricky to do it there, but it does look like he's going to carry the momentum out onto the straight.
Yes, Andrew Parker, P7 will be enough to give him third place in the championship. Paul Ferneyhoff fighting back on the outside at Redgate. That rarely works. John Lang and Peter Varga still rounding out the first 10. Bit of a slide there from Ferneyhoff as he goes back to the inside. But Ferneyhoff, if he gets back through here, it won't worry Andrew Parker too much, because a top 9 finish we think should be enough. At least Chris and his spreadsheet thinks should be enough to give him third place in the championship. Chris is infinitely better at mathematics than I am.
Well, I just like typing in formulas into spreadsheets, and then they can take the strain, can't they? I will do some tapping away after this first one to see whether we can figure that out. But nevertheless, we will enjoy the racing as it progresses. Stillwell very wide there again. Let's sort of settled down, hasn't it, here out the front? So the closest battle on track is still the Ferneyhoff-Parker battle, and they've been swapping back places. They'll be really enjoying this. I know Andrew Parker loves racing, and so does Paul, so they'll be enjoying the battle out there, and so far they haven't made any significant contact, which is great to see as well. So from early on, they're 7th and 8th. Andrew Parker will be a bit disappointed with the kind of position, so as will Paul Ferneyhoff, who we've seen getting towards that top 3 area, but they'll definitely be enjoying this battle.
Out of the Fogarty S's they come then. Parker ready to try and go back around the outside. There's Tom McEwing, the former Caterham Academy champion, up ahead of them. Can Parker get round the outside on the Melbourne loop? No, he can't. Ferneyhoff later on the brakes holds that title. Is that Stillwell slowing? I noticed there on the right. Yes, Will Stillwell's had a moment at the Melbourne loop, so he's dropped back into 6th position. That's freed up Ryan Hooker into 4th place. I'm not quite sure what has happened there. Yeah, he's slowing down, Will Stillwell. He's got a problem. It will be a track limits penalty imposed by the server.
Yes. He's having to get down to 21 miles an hour or not be on the throttle, so he's losing out an awful lot of places. So when the race steward deems that they have cut that chicane too fine, and it is a very clinical thing, they get a penalty, and that's either to slow down to 21 miles an hour or they have to be off the throttle for over 5 seconds. So obviously it costs you an awful lot, and that's what was happening to Stillwell there as he was going around. That leaves Ryan Hooker in a safe 4th place now, with only the opportunity to gain places, but I guess he's got to protect it. He's got to finish in 4th place, and we've on to the final lap as we currently speak. Yes, the clock has just counted down to 0 as we talk to you, so that's a bit like a long lap penalty in motorcycle racing that Will Stillwell received there, being slowed through the Melbourne loop and up to Goddard's. I thought he'd gone off at first, and he's been running wide on a few occasions, but that's disaster for Will Stillwell. Good fortune for Ryan Hooker, because it just keeps him in championship contention. Meanwhile, Paul Donkin has led all the way from pole position, looking set to head to his 3rd win of the season, his 3rd in a row. David Rowe up there in 2nd place. Looking at the points chart, that will be his best result of the season so far. And Steve Arnell on for his 2nd podium of the season, a 3rd place at Snetterton last time out. They've just got to get through the Melbourne loop. The lead gap has come down a little, in fact. It's just under a second now, 0.8 of a second to be precise.
It's up towards Goddard's for the final time. It's going to be 3 in a row for the number 24 of Paul Donkin. He's only got to put his foot down out of the... Oh, David Rowe must have got a penalty. He's slowing out of the final corner there. So Steve Arnell will come over in second. Ryan Hooker is gifted third place, and David Rowe comes over in fourth.
Yeah, that's all changed at the last second there as we watched Donkin just enjoying his slowdown lap. That's not a... Well, I mean, it's helped Ryan Hooker quite a lot, but and David Rowe obviously not figuring, because we see this gaggle of cars coming over the line together there. What a headed by Stillwell in that Ailing car. Matt Shepherd's crossing the line there as well. Nick Platz and Gary Preble finishing their first 15 minutes. We've got a second race of 15 minutes still to come. But now Ryan Hooker looks like he's taken third place, so that'll be 47 points, and that keeps him very firmly in the running. I think he still needs that second place finish though. If not, I'll work out exactly what he needs coming into this final round. Let me just check. Yeah, he needs actually a second place, in fact a first place finish. Even though he finished third, he still needs that first place finish to guarantee him, because on the tie break, which he would be if he came second, he loses out. Okay, so we will confirm that in just a moment. We'll have a look at the results of this first race first of all. Paul Donkin taking the win, 1.9 seconds in the end, because David Rowe, I presume he got a penalty there on the last lap and dropped down to P4. Steve Arnell, his best results of the season, in second, and Ryan Hooker in at crucial P3. Tom McEwing is in fifth position ahead of Paul Ferneyhoff. They were together in the second group. Andrew Parker just losing out to Ferneyhoff in the end, but P7 enough to give him third in the championship. Well done to Andrew. Will Stillwell, bad luck to him, got a penalty late on. He finishes P8 ahead of Peter Varga, heading ahead of John Lang late on there for P9. 11th place for Johnny Lenz, ahead of Matt Shepherd. Good recovery by Matt after a spin on the first lap, back up into P12. Nick Platz in 13th ahead of Gary Preble, then Ryan Wilby in 15th, Lee Green 16th, and Neil Pardo, Anthony Hambleton, Will Rayson and Cameron Miller rounding out the finishes. Of course, we lost Alan Curtis after a couple of laps. Yeah, an interesting first race. Still keeps the championship alive, but only if Ryan Hooker can win this final race. If he only gets a second place, it's a tie break, and that isn't going to be enough because he hasn't got enough wins throughout the course of the season. Christian has 3 to Ryan Hooker's single victory. So it needs to be a win for him to take it. Andrew Parker taking 7th place. That should therefore solidify his 3rd place in the championship. So I think we can call that one now. So it's coming down to the absolute wire for the championship win. Can Ryan Hooker, can he do enough to get him across the line? The rest of them will be just fighting out with that to see how much they can get into their championship points and how far up they can lie for the other placings, the lesser placings, should we call them. Okay, so Chris has done a bit of work with his calculator. So, in other words, Ryan Hooker needs to win this second race from 3rd on the grid. Is that confirmed? Confirmed. Okay, so they start in the order they finished the first race. So Steve Arnell moves up into P2 on the grid. We're just waiting for the drivers to get back on the grid. A quick break to refuel. And we'll see them back out for race 2 over 15 minutes. Another dominant victory, though, from Paul Donkin, wasn't he? He's proved that he can scamper off. I know it was closing in at the end, but it felt controlled, didn't it? So another great result for him. And Stephen Arnell, absolutely nailing that second place on. Looks solid all race. And whilst David Rowe might be a bit unfortunate to have an issue there, he's nevertheless back. He other than that last lap, he was strong all race, wasn't he? So another good result for him. But all eyes on the white and green 1-to-1 coach, Ryan Hooker. Can he win this race? Can he take the championship? Okay, here we go then. Paul Donkin and Steve Arnell on the front row of the grid. Ryan Hooker and David Rowe on the second row. Tension beginning to mount then. This is it. The championship decider over the next 15 minutes for the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship, supported by DPR Motorsport, 1-to-1 driver coaching and FP0 simulators. So that everybody is in position. Alan Curtis will be the last man on the grid at the back of the field. On McEwing alongside Paul Ferneyhoff on row 3. Andrew Parker alongside Will Stillwell. That's your top 8 on the grid. Waiting for the red lights to come on in the sunny weather here at Donington Park. was a great race
Donkin.
between Paul Ferneyhoff, wasn't it, and Andrew Parker. So let's see whether they can continue their battle into this race, because I know they would have enjoyed that. That whilst the front lot scampered off, that was probably the battle of that race.
It certainly was, yes. There was that great fight led by Tom McEwing in the early stages, the second group effectively. Who is going to do it? Can Christian Szaruta, absent tonight, hang on in front? Ryan Hooker needs to win this race to snatch the championship away from him on dropped scores. It's waiting for everybody to be happy, all the marshals and other officials around the circuit. And when the clerk of the course gives the signal, we will be underway. This is going to be a cracker here at Donington Park this evening. And our final race of the caterhamracer.com 270R championship season. The red lights about to come on. 4 lights, 5 lights, 6 lights. The championship decider is upon us. Let's get ready to rumble. Here we go. Down towards Redgate for the first time. Everybody gets away cleanly. Alan Curtis already trying to move up from the back. It's Paul Donkin moving across to take the line into that first corner. One car looks like starting from the pit lane. I think that's Cameron Miller as they make their way round Redgate for the first time. Ryan Hooker trying to go through on the inside of Steve Arnell. One car running wide and getting sideways onto the grass. That's the number 12 car that has spun. It's Peter Varga, who was in the top 10 in race 1. 3 wide. Look at that, Steve Arnell. What a move up the inside into the Craner curves. Donkin's got the lead. Arnell, that was a brave move coming down the crane as he's gone through into P2. That's the last thing Ryan Hooker wanted. Will Stillwell on the grass coming out of... he's still on the grass coming out of the old airbin up towards Schwansko. It's almost 4 wide for second place. Tom McEwing's right up there. Ryan Hooker up the inside into McLean's. He takes second place away from Steve Arnell. McEwing, Rowe and Andrew Parker bottled up behind somebody else. That's Lee Green running wide. They're all running wide at the back into the McLean's gravel. Ryan Hooker through into second place, and he is now going to go hell for leather. It's going to be pedal to the metal as he goes after race leader Paul Donkin.
Yeah, an absolute clump of Caterhams coming down here into the Fogarty S's for this time through, and it's Ryan Hooker that currently heads them. He knows what he needs to do, and he now needs to close that gap to Donkin, see what he can do. Arnell absolutely shoving his car down Crater curves, like you said. The momentum was all with the other cars there, but Ryan Hooker managed to hold on, keep his car in that second place, go slightly defensive if they come down into Goddard's this time. Andrew Parker has made some great progress after we saw him on the gravel just now. David Rowe drifted wide out of I can't remember the coppice, wasn't it? So he's been on the grass as well. Dirty tyres to clean up. Ryan Hooker, though, has done what he needs to do in this early part, and Andrew Parker down the inside there of Tom McEwing makes that stick, a rear end sliding out on the exit, but still manages to have the momentum at the moment. But it's absolutely going to be nose to tail between him and Tom McEwing going into Redgate this time.
Well, Parker came from nowhere there up the inside at Goddard's into third place ahead of McEwing. Arnell's been shuffled back from P2 down into fifth ahead of David Rowe after he ran wide coming out onto the exhibition straight onto the grass. They start to sort that on. Matt Shepherd spun again. He's not having a happy day. Another burn from the stern coming from him, I am sure. Donkin leads by just under 2 seconds. Ryan Hooker needs to do the job. He needs to close the gap on Paul Donkin. Paul, a vastly experienced racer both in the virtual world and the real world. Parker's got McEwing on his tail, right on his tail as they come up towards Schwansko. We're on board with Tom McEwing as we go into McLean's. Flash of flame from the exhaust of Andrew Parker's car. Brake lights come on. We sling our way through, then up under the flight path of East Midlands Airport and into the double apex. You can see you can't see that apex on the way in. Very tricky to know where to aim the front of the car. Steve Arnell still ahead of David Rowe. Up in 7th is Gianni Lenz. He's going well. Lang, Platts and Ferneyhoff round out the top 10.
Yeah, great stuff for John Lenz as well, putting his car right up the order compared to where he started in the previous race. So really coming to the fore and taking part in this battle. We've seen that before as Tommy Kuhn's just got another little run out of the chicane that time through. Pulls to the outside, so Parker defending down the inside. It does look like that's going to come good. Arnell slipping another place back behind Rowe. In fact, McEwing having to go out wide there again, probably serving a penalty to around that chicane that time through. So we said he had a bit of a run out the chicane. Well, he did that by cutting the corner just too fine. Here is that Ryan Hooker, just a point shy. This will be a dead heat for the actual championship, but on count back that won't be enough for Ryan Hooker, so he must get Donkin in that red machine out front, and that gap looks like it's getting bigger rather than smaller.
Yes, Christian Saruta's had 3 wins. Ryan Hooker's only had 1 so far this year. I think that was at Thruxton earlier this year that Ryan Hooker had his win. So they make their way through towards the Craner curves once again. Yeah, Donkin is pulling away. There's Steve Arnell in 5th position, chasing down David Rowe. McEwing is back into 6th position after serving that penalty at the hairpin. Here's John Lang coming under fire from the blue car of Nick Platz, and a gap back to Paul Ferneyhoff, who's down to 10th. Will Stillwell in P11 behind him. Stillwell's had a moment somewhere as well, and certainly having a moment there in the background is Ferneyhoff. He's on the grass coming out of the old hairpin. Side by side they're up through Schwantz curve, the left-hander, then into the right at McLean's. Platz will have the inside line on John Lang through there. John Lang coming into this event joint 4th in the points with Stillwell, so it's going to be interesting to see who gets P4 in the championship. And now Andrew Parker chasing down David Rowe for 3rd. Ryan Hooker pushing on, but he's not catching race leader Paul Donkin.
Yeah, we saw that place swap again. Andrew Parker keeping to the right, to the outside, leaving the door open for Arnell. Quite confident he's not going to give up that place. But it's great to see Platz up here in 9th place. We're fighting against our 4th place championship sitter as we came into this weekend, because he's had come from being off the pace to being clear and right on the pace. So great to see that development as time spent on the server definitely helps your racing, and we know that there's plenty of racers out here, including Paul Donkin, who really love the online aspects of this racing. It's all humans racing against humans. It's the same psychology, and we have got a team working hard to make these models as realistic as we can as well, and everyone university loves this 270R model, so it's great practice. Again, if you're sitting at home thinking how do I get involved, caterhamracer.com is where you need to go. We've got real world races here, we've got dedicated sim racers, and we've got all sorts in between, so it's a really nice community of drivers.
So here they come then once again out of Redgate down towards the crater curves. Ryan Hooker pushing as hard as he can. The racing instructor and driver coach, a 1-2-1 driver coaching. He desperately needs to catch Paul Donkin for the lead of this race. David Rowe back up into P3 ahead of Andrew Parker. We're on board with Paul Donkin. He's got onboard cameras all over his car as he goes for win number 4 of his season, and 4 consecutive. What a great way to round off his season. This will provisionally move him up into the top 10 of the championship. Of course, he missed a couple of rounds early in the season. Andrew Parker under fire from Steve Arnell. Had a look there coming out of McLean's corner up towards Coppice. There's Tom McEwing in P6 in the green machine. Out of the right-hander at Coppice corner, then up towards the exhibition straight they come once again. And Parker being slipstream here by Steve Arnell, but he's gone to the wrong side. It's the left-right into the Fogarty S's next. Parker covering the inside line very nicely. Paul Donkin that leads by just over 2 seconds ahead of Ryan Hooker. Further back, Len's still 7th ahead of Lang. Here's a side-by-side battle. Will Rayson in the orange number 5 car going side-by-side with the black car of Anthony Hambleton. This is for P18 down into the chicane. Will Rayson will go for the inside on the exit, dives past Hambleton as they come down towards the hairpin at the Melbourne Loop. Matt Shepherd just ahead of him is Peter Varga, who spun on the opening lap, was lucky not to take anybody else out with him. We come up towards half distance in this final race of the season for the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship. Over the line come the leaders. Donkin from Hooker by nearly 2.3 seconds now. That's a lead gap going up very slightly all the time.
Couple of really good examples there around Donington. Even though the outside of the Fogarty S's chicane won't work, it can put your competitor offline, and they have to take a tighter line through the chicane, and that means you can have a good chance of getting them on the way down into the hairpin. So sort of an experienced driver's move there. Whilst the outside line will not work for you and you won't necessarily take that place, it does shuffle your competitor offline, and we saw that working a couple of times. So David Rowe catching up here with Ryan Hooker, so 1.3 seconds at the moment behind. That's going to put Ryan Hooker under some pressure, but does he let David Rowe go through with the hope that David Rowe maybe has the extra speed we need to catch back up with Donkin? That's some tactics to go on there. I doubt that's going to happen, because I think the gap's just too big at the moment for them to get back across. I think Ryan Hooker's looking at being a dead heat in the championship, but unfortunately that won't be enough for him.
Change for 4th place there at McLean. Steve Arnell's just got ahead of Andrew Parker. Here comes Tom McEwing as well. He's trying to get through into P5 at the chicane, recovering after his penalty earlier on in the race. Paul Donkin leads by nearly 2.5 seconds now. It's interesting that you note tactics there, Chris, that David Rowe might be the slightly quicker car and can get ahead of Ryan Hooker and tow him up to the back almost of the race leader, Paul Donkin. We'll have a look at their lap times as they come over the line this time through, see whether they are in comparison with each other. over the line they come. Donkin does a 1:46.597, 1:46.5, 1:46.4. So yes, Rowe was slightly quicker that time through, but only by a few hundredths of a second. David Rowe, in fact, did the fastest lap of the race that time through, 1:46.431. So yeah, that could be a tactic that he could use, as we see Alan Curtis in the middle of this group. He's come up from the back of the grid into P13, just taking Gary Preble. Cameron Miller, who started from the pit lane, is in there just behind in the all-white car. Preble trying to go around the outside. Was racing at Croft recently, but not in his Caterham. Was back out in his very modified Honda Civic with the classic touring car racing club.
Fantastic sounding car. That it always sounds on the edge of exploding, but it's such an amazing. Oh, a little contact there between Curtis and Preble. So a little bit of a disagreement about whose line that was and how much room there was, and there was just wheel-to-wheel contact, and that saw Curtis go around, didn't it? So unfortunate for him. I can see Preble is waiting for him, and Anthony Hamilton's going to make up those spaces. So they're doing what we asked them to do on this service, which is if there is contact, then wait for the person you've made contact with, and then you can consider your penalty as served in line rather than having to go up to the steward's office. Often the better way of recovering your points. As we see Parker trying to see whether he can do anything about Arnell. This has been a race-long battle. It was Parker and Fernie off in the last one for 7th and 8th, and now it's Arnell versus Parker in this one. Arnell scooping to the inside there, but looking like it maybe he's got a penalty. I think he might well have, because he's slowing right down, and McEwing's got a run on him. Maybe not. It's hard to say. There was a strange line into the hairpin for sure. As we watch Ryan Hooker in the foreground, you can see how much closer David Rowe is to Ryan Hooker. You know Ryan Hooker's brain will be working on overdrive as to whether he can let him go and see whether they can close the gap. But at the moment, he's what he was doing previously isn't working. He's not closing on Donkin quick enough.
Yes, and if David Rowe does get through now, there's only 4 minutes of the race to go, so there might not be time to catch Paul Donkin, even if they do that bit of towing tactics up to the back of the red, number 24 here. I don't think they'll catch him in time now. Going towards the closing stages of the season then, as Tom McEwing trying to maybe make a move here on Steve Arnell. Gary Preble rejoined in P17 after that contact. Alan Curtis P18, so they are still together on track after that little disagreement into the old hairpin last time through. Looking down from our drone camera, or are we on board one of the planes coming out of East Midlands Airport? It's difficult to know at Donington.
I think it'd be hard for them to circulate around here. We'll call it a drone or a helicopter, but we do see the planes taking off here in the virtual world as well, and in real life they're certainly big and noisy. And a little contact there between there's Arnell and Parker. So Parker just didn't have enough speed through that corner. Well, according to Arnell, he didn't. So there was contact. They are going to shuffle themselves back into that order, but that is going to put Arnell out of action, and maybe Tom McEwing's going to try and make the most of that. He hasn't done, so they have all just decided they'd sit in line and let that race continue. They're clearly enjoying themselves out there, and they don't want a little bit of contact like that to upset the apple cart. I
think Tom McEwing gave him a little bit of a shunting assistance there through Coppice, as well as David Rowe has now virtually caught Ryan Hooker for that second place. Hooker can probably sense his championship chance slipping away as they come through into the final corner at Goddard's. 2.5 minutes to go. There is Paul Donkin, 2.3 seconds in it for the lead. We're on board with Ryan Hooker. Moves up through the gears as he goes down the straight, the Wheatcroft straight. Donkin moves wide into the pit lane exit, and if anything, Hooker's actually pulled away just a little bit from David Rowe there down the straight. They go through the right-hander at Redgate into the Craner curves once again. Looks like Nick Platts may have had a problem further back. He's dropping down the order. I was about to say exactly that. It looks like he's had a disconnect or an issue there that's meant that he's going to go to be DNF as he drops down the tower. Andrew Parker and Steve Arnell, I can see, also still having their battle. Here there is. As I said, they're enjoying themselves, and it certainly looks like it. Nothing between them. Just Andrew Parker just about skips to the outside there, but that leaves Tom McEwing with a run up the inside. They're going to try and go 3 wide up into McLean. Surely that can't work. It's certainly not a comfortable place to be in. And McEwing has to leave that for Arnell to take, but Parker's still shoving his nose down the inside where it's not wanted, and Arnell manages just about to take that bit of momentum. So they're just absolutely swapping and changing who's got that very slight overlap, and all managing the situation very well. We saw a bit of contact through here last time, but it is McEwing that currently sits at the back of that field, and it's Gianni Lenz who's looking to see whether he can come join in the fun, but he's only got 1.25 minutes to go. Yeah, a couple of other non-finishers, Anthony Hambleton and Neil Pardo, also out of the race as Arnell cuts the entry to the chicane just a little bit fine there. Hope that's not going to lead to a penalty for the 06 machine. David Rowe is now right on the tail of Ryan Hooker for second place. They're coming around to start what will be the last lap of the season. This time through, Paul Donkin continues to lead. He's going to make it 4 wins in a row to conclude the season. Here, Ryan Hooker just sliding a little bit wide there through Goddard's, out over the curb. David Rowe will try and get through for P2. The last thing he wants is more misfortune on the last lap of the season.
Yeah,
they come.
He's got that guaranteed podium right now, but he wants that second place, and I think Ryan will concede at this point that unless Donkin throws it into the scenery, that is the end of that championship charge. Not unheard of course. You know, when drivers had an easy time of it, they can make mistakes late on in a race, but currently Ryan Hooker's keeping that second place, and will want to keep it for that very reason, that if Donkin does have a mechanical or anything else goes wrong, he'll want to be in that position to be able to pick up the pieces of that. And at the moment, it doesn't look like David Rowe's going to give him an easy run into this tail end of this race, though, is he?
He's certainly not. He's all over the back of Ryan Hooker as they go into the right-hander at McLean's. Paul Donkin is heading for victory, and Ryan Hooker, I think he's trying to hold up David Rowe almost there, coming out of McLean's, it looked like. Climb up to Coppice, maybe just defending for valour now. That P2 Ryan Hooker, they've dropped nearly 3 seconds back on Paul Donkin. Now Donkin is going to win this race barring any major disaster. Rowe is nearly 5 seconds clear of Arnell, who's holding off Parker and McEwing. That's been the battle of the race once again. They're almost side by side there for second into the chicane, but Hooker holds the inside. Down the straight they come into the Melbourne Loop. Just a couple of corners to go now. It's only the right here and the left at Goddard's, and Rowe dodges up the inside. There was almost contact between the two of them there. Hooker goes out wide. Rowe up the inside. He's going to take that second place, I think. They're going to be side by side up the hill towards the last quarter of the season. But here comes Paul Donkin. He's going to make it 4 wins in succession. Who's going to be second? Hooker on the brakes, back up the inside. Donkin will win the race. Hooker's got back up the inside. Donkin slides across the line to win it. Ryan Hooker will take second place, but it's not quite going to be enough. And there'll be celebrations in the USA tonight because Christian Szaruta, in absentia, is going to win the caterhamracer.com 270R championship for the second year running. Congratulations, Christian Szaruta, provisionally your champion.
Absolute dead heat on the actual scores, but that means goes to count back, and Christian has more race wins than Ryan throughout the course this weekend. So this year, so he does take that championship. And yeah, congratulations to back up last year's championship with this one as well. So that's a great result for him, and he'll be back for the next season, no doubt. So we watch the rest of this field coming through. Just Ryan Wilby we're waiting for to come across the line before that is a season over for our Season 10. Great season it's been, and yeah, fantastic racing throughout the whole course of this. As here is Ryan Wilby just coming towards the line, fresh off his...
He will be here in a second.
Yeah, there he is.
Sorry, just had to get that one in.
He will be here in a second. Very good.
Okay, here's your result then. Paul Donkin the winner by 3.3 seconds in the end over Ryan Hooker, who just held off David Rowe in that battle for second place. Steve Arnell in fourth. Great fight with Andrew Parker and Tom McEwing. Johnny Lenz, an excellent seventh ahead of Will Stillwell, Paul Ferneyhoff, and John Lang rounding out the top 10. A fairly subdued meeting for him. Cameron Miller, great drive through the field from him. Started from the pit lane, finishes 11th ahead of Matt Shepherd, then Lee Green, Gary Preble, Peter Varga after a spin on the first corner, Alan Curtis in P16, then Will Rayson and Ryan Wilby completing the finishers. We lost Nick Platts, Anthony Hambleton, a couple of laps from home there, and Neil Pardo, an early retirement.
Yep, great result then for Christian Szaruta, though he wasn't even here tonight, but a great end result for him as he's won that championship. But Ryan Hooker certainly threw the kitchen sink of that, but for one more place in the race one, he would have taken that home. But yeah, as I say, dead heat on the actual points. But that does give the championship to Christian Szaruta. And Andrew Parker's done enough over the course of this evening to solidify his third place. So congratulations to him. That is our championship winners for this evening. So let's see whether any of them are available to chat to. So let's go and grab Andrew Parker to start with, third place in the championship. Hey Andrew, have you got us in the commentary box?
Hey Cheesy, how's it going?
Yeah, very good. So done enough to secure your third place in the championship. It's been a long old season, but a fairly satisfactory result, I'd say, overall.
Yes, another bridesmaid's dress for me.
Always the bridesmaid, and very pretty it looks too. I guess in a championship that really is quite competitive, and I know that you had you've had a couple of off evenings, as it were, where you've just been on the wrong side of an incident or been taken away. It's good to be able to consistently make that third place in the championship, but ultimately, I guess you're looking for more.
Yeah, no, I'm chuffed with third. That's probably a fair reflection. I think I had a better second half of the season than the first half, as you alluded to, and need to do it good all the time, like the boys at the front.
Yeah, it's ultra quick, isn't it, and ultra consistent. But we'll be heading into the winter series, so I'm assuming you'll be with us for that and looking to see whether you can make that step up.
Seeing as it's 30.5 degrees in my office at the moment, I'm very much looking forward to the winter series.
Indeed, I think we're all in that boat together. So yeah, okay, congratulations over the course this weekend and over the season, and we'll see you again soon.
Cheers, Cheesy. Cheers, Dave.
No problem at all. Congratulations, Andrew Parker. Third place in the championship.
Let's see. Obviously, let me grab Ryan Hooker in here before we move on. Ryan, have you got us in the commentary box?
I certainly do. Thank you very much.
Oh, so close yet so far. I think one place more in the in that second race, or the first one, it would have done it. But it's a dead heat. But unfortunately, on count back, that does mean that Christian's done it.
Christian's done it for 2 years in a row, so obviously congratulations to him. I mean, if someone said to me, "You'll be battling for the title at the end of it, or in finish second," obviously I would have took that. So to be vice champion, that sounds good. To be level on points and to lose it on count back on wins, Christian's just done a slightly better job. So well done to him.
I mean, it's been an ultra consistent race season for you both. I mean, you have both been there or thereabouts on the podium nearly every single round. Just one or two where it sort of just dropped down, but it's not easy being consistent in this group. They are very fast, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Every Wednesday night we do it, we're always sweating, and absolutely, really, really tough. You don't necessarily know who the top sort of 3 or 4 order-wise is going to be, which is obviously great. If you think back over the course of the season, there's probably, we could all say there's a couple that just got away, and maybe Snetterton, we were strong and it just didn't quite go to plan there. But nevertheless, it's great, and hopefully next year work doesn't get in the way and allows me to do all the rounds, unlike last year where I could only do 2 rounds. So this year's been good for us.
It's always fantastic to have you racing with us, and thanks for your support. And I guess looking forward to seeing you out on track with your drivers out on track for the real season finale in the Real World Motorsport in a couple of weekends' time.
Yeah, I think next week at Donington's going to be our busiest. So I'm going to be going Tuesday, setting up Wednesday. Obviously, we've got them Thursday through till Saturday. I've got 5 other coaches with me on the Friday. We've got something like 18 drivers to look after solely on the Friday. It's going to be our busiest one there. So, it's going in the right direction. Let's
fingers crossed for great results there, as good as yours have been this season. Congratulations on second place. Commiserations, you couldn't quite pip it at the end there, but a great season.
That's wonderful. And thanks, obviously, for all your organisation. It's greatly appreciated by everyone.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, see you soon.
Bye now.
And I think it's only fair that we drag Paul Donkin in as the double race winner tonight. Paul, have you got us in the commentary box?
Chris, Dave, how's things?
Yeah,
hello.
A double win, and I guess a season that could have been, but for life getting in the way. Kind of, ultimately, you've shown some great speed on the sim, and tonight was no exception.
Yeah, mega night, to be honest, mate. I mean, I couldn't do them all throughout the season, but the ones we could, we jumped on. Just a big thanks to you guys for putting it all together. It's been fantastic.
And I'm guessing Christian's going to be pretty happy with you right now, having just stolen away that win from Ryan Hooker. He just couldn't do anything about it. He just couldn't haul you back in.
Yeah, is that correct? I think if Ryan won one of them, would he have took the championship?
He just needed one more place. Yep, that's all. Yep.
All right. Well, I do feel a little bit bad, but I didn't realise that. But what can he do?
Christian's been watching over in America, and he's just said he wasn't nervous at all. But yeah, a great result for you in the Donkin Group car, and we'll see you still a couple more rounds for you in the real world coming up Donington in a couple of weekends' time, and then Silverstone with the touring cars not too long after.
Yeah, that's the one. Two really good rounds to look forward to, especially Donington. I mean, obviously the touring car round is going to be good. The circuit's going to be interesting, but yeah, we'll have to see how we get on.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a NASCAR race around there with that format of circuit. But yeah, we will look forward to watching it out there. Congratulations tonight, and we'll see you again in a future race.
Yep, thanks once again, guys. See you soon. All right. Good night.
Great stuff. All right, that sort of concludes then, David, what has been, a great season. We've loved the 270. You know, the drivers really have enjoyed the new car and how it feels, and we'll be soon up and running with what's coming next. But yeah, keep an eye on caterhamracer.com for all that information. And if you're, say, not sick of Caterhams by now, the Caterham Festival at Donington in a couple of weekends' time is going to be epic with, say, not just the official motorsport, all 5 steps of the official Caterham Motorsport ladder. We'll also have graduates there and the Mag 7s. So more Caterhams and 7 Series cars than you can throw us. Well, shake a stick at, I think is the phrase.
You can shake a gear stick at.
Indeed. Yes.
Yes, I can't wait for Donington in a couple of weeks' time. Really looking forward to covering the events on the live stream alongside yourself, Chris. And to finish the season, I must say a big thank you to you, Chris, for your organisation as well as broadcasting on the YouTube streams of the caterhamracer.com. So it's been a pleasure to join you on commentary this season.
And it's been great to have you here. So we shall pat each other on the back because it has been another great season, and I really enjoy it. And I love the drivers get benefit from it, whether they're sim drivers or real world drivers. And we shall be around. So again, as I've said all along, caterhamracer.com if you want to get involved in any way. And thanks to all our viewers and our fans and people who do watch along, and we will be back with more. But let me just thank once again for the final time this season our sponsors and supporters. So, the caterhamracer.com Season 10 270R Championship is sponsored by DPR Motorsport, your competitive advantage, and by 1-to-1, on-track coaching and simulator training with Ryan Hooker. We are supported by FP0 Simulators. Yeah, a huge thanks to those guys. A huge thanks to you, David, and we'll be back soon.
Yep, that's about all from me. Thanks very much indeed for listening, everyone, and we'll see you at Donington.